After years of defending their unconventional lifestyle, the Sister Wives stars are finally pulling back the curtain, and what they're revealing has fans reeling. In a stunning turn of honesty, Christine, Janelle, and Mary Brown have come forward to admit what many viewers have suspected all along. Polygamy wasn't empowering, spiritual, or balanced. It was built to benefit one man. Their candid reflections paint a heartbreaking picture of emotional neglect, competition, and inequality, exposing the cracks in a system they once believed was divine. What started as a faith-driven experiment in unity has now been laid bare as a story of control, heartbreak, and awakening. For more than a decade, Sister Wives has given viewers a rare and often controversial window into the lives of the Brown family, one of America's most famous polygamist households. What began as a story of love, faith, and unity has evolved into a complex saga of heartbreak, self-discovery, and truth-telling. Now, years after the family's original dream has collapsed, the women who once defended the practice of plural marriage are speaking out with raw honesty. Their message is shaking the very foundation of everything they once believed. Christine, Janelle, and Mary Brown have all reached the same conclusion. Polygamy was never truly about faith. It was about control. This revelation has left fans stunned and has forced even the most loyal followers of the show to re-examine what they thought they knew about the Browns' unique lifestyle. When Sister Wives premiered in 2010, audiences were fascinated by the Brown story. Kody Brown, a man of deep conviction and charisma, presented polygamy as a calling, a divine structure meant to unite families and build eternal bonds. His wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and later Robin, each took turns explaining their belief that plural marriage was a test of faith, a higher spiritual path that required selflessness and love. They spoke with conviction about their church's teachings and the promise of celestial rewards for those who lived the principle of plural marriage. To the outside world, they seemed to have achieved something extraordinary. 4 women coexisting under one spiritual union, raising children, managing households, and sharing one man without falling apart. But behind the cameras, something much darker was brewing. Over the years, the women began to see cracks in the very foundation they'd built their lives upon. What once felt like a sacred calling slowly revealed itself to be an emotional hierarchy, one that placed Kody's wants and needs above everyone else's. As their relationships with him deteriorated and the balance of the family unraveled, the wives began to realize that polygamy had never offered true equality. It was a structure that demanded women's submission, encouraged jealousy, and rewarded control. Christine Brown was the first to say it out loud. After decades of trying to make her marriage work, she finally reached her breaking point in 2021, deciding to leave Kody and the plural family for good. Her departure marked the beginning of the end for the entire family, and her newfound honesty opened the floodgates for conversations that had long been buried beneath religious duty. In recent interviews and on-camera moments, Christine has described how years of spiritual manipulation and emotional neglect convinced her that the lifestyle she once revered was in fact deeply flawed. She has said that she stayed so long because she believed it was what God wanted, but now realizes that the belief system itself had been used to keep her compliant. Janelle Brown, the pragmatic and independent-minded second wife, followed a similar path of awakening. Though she was always more business-focused and emotionally reserved, even she could no longer ignore the imbalance in her relationship with Kody. What began as a cooperative partnership eventually turned into frustration and resentment. Kody's favoritism toward Robin became impossible to deny, and his spiritual authority, once viewed as protective, began to feel oppressive. Janelle's reflections have been some of the most candid yet. She's admitted that polygamy, as she experienced it, placed an unfair emotional burden on women while giving men unchecked power under the guise of divine order. What was supposed to be faith, she now says was actually control. Then there's Mary Brown, the original first wife, whose journey through heartbreak and self-denial has been both painful and public. For years, Mary clung to the hope that her spiritual marriage to Kody still had value, even as their emotional connection deteriorated into nothing. She was the first to legally divorce him so he could marry Robin, supposedly for the benefit of Robin's children, but the decision left her feeling invisible and discarded. Despite her early defense of polygamy, Mary now admits that the system left her feeling silenced. She's spoken about how women in plural marriages are often expected to swallow their emotions, suppress their pain, and accept mistreatment under the banner of faith. Looking back, Mary has said that the belief in obedience and sacrifice masked a deeper truth. The system wasn't about spiritual growth, it was about control and compliance. What makes this revelation so powerful is that it's coming from women who once fiercely defended the practice. They didn't just live it, they preached it. Their faith was sincere, and their loyalty to the principle of plural marriage was deeply rooted in their upbringing and beliefs. For them to now reject it so completely is not only an act of liberation, but also a profound spiritual reckoning. They've come to see that their worth was never dependent on their ability to share a man or endure suffering for the sake of heaven. Instead, they found strength in reclaiming their autonomy and redefining their relationships with God on their own terms.
The shift in their perspective has also changed the way viewers interpret Sister Wives itself. In the early seasons, fans were often divided between admiration and disbelief. Some saw the family as a testament to faith and resilience. Others saw it as a cautionary tale of manipulation and emotional strain. Now, as the women's voices grow stronger and more independent, the narrative has changed entirely. What was once presented as a story about love and devotion within polygamy has evolved into a story of survival, empowerment, and truth. Even Robin Brown, the last remaining wife, has not been spared from this re-examination. Though she remains with Cody, her position within the family has been controversial since the beginning. Fans have long accused Cody of favoring her, creating deep resentment among the other wives. While Robin continues to defend her relationship with Cody, she too has expressed disappointment and exhaustion with the dynamics of polygamy. In moments of rare vulnerability, she's admitted that the system often sets women up for emotional pain. Yet, unlike her sister wives, she still believes in its potential, though the cracks in her faith are becoming increasingly visible. The Brown story has become a symbol of how spiritual belief systems can evolve, especially when tested by real-life experience. For years, these women believed they were living a divine principle that would bring them eternal happiness. But now, standing on the other side of that belief, they see it for what it was, a structure that benefited men while asking women to sacrifice their emotional well-being. The courage it takes to admit that publicly, after years of defending it, cannot be overstated. Their honesty has resonated with viewers who have faced similar struggles in different contexts. Those who've stayed in unhealthy relationships or rigid systems out of fear, obligation, or misplaced faith. Christine Brown's post-divorce interviews have been especially powerful. She's spoken openly about how leaving polygamy allowed her to finally feel whole. For the first time in her adult life, she says she wakes up without the burden of comparison or competition. Her relationship with David Woolley, whom she married after leaving Cody, represents a complete departure from her old life. In their monogamous marriage, Christine says she feels seen, valued, and cherished, things she never truly experienced in her plural marriage. Her transformation from a woman trapped in spiritual guilt to one radiating joy has inspired fans around the world. Janelle, too, has blossomed since stepping away from Cody. She's focused on her health, her business, and her independence. She's spoken about how liberating it feels to live for herself rather than for a principle that constantly left her emotionally drained. While she maintains her faith, she now believes that spirituality should empower, not suppress. Her clarity and strength have made her one of the most admired figures in the Sister Wives universe. Mary's evolution has been slower, but just as profound. For years, she clung to the hope that Cody would love her again, but after facing the truth, she's finally focusing on her own healing. She's spoken about rediscovering her identity outside of being Cody's wife and learning to love herself without needing validation from him or the faith system that wants to find her. Her resilience, after enduring years of public heartbreak, has made her story deeply relatable to fans who have struggled to let go of toxic attachments. The collective honesty of the Brown women has sparked a larger conversation about gender, religion, and control in polygamous systems. Many former fundamentalist women have come forward to share similar experiences, saying that what was framed as divine order was actually a form of emotional and spiritual domination. These revelations have put renewed scrutiny on how patriarchal religious structures often use faith as a means of power. By sharing their stories, the Sister Wives stars have not only redefined their own lives, but also given voice to countless women who've lived under similar constraints. The cultural impact of this shift cannot be ignored. For years, Sister Wives was one of TLC's most watched and most discussed shows because it challenged mainstream ideas about marriage and family. But now, it's doing something even more important, exposing the human cost of systems that claim to be about love, but are really about control. The women's willingness to confront the truth has transformed the show from a spectacle into a social commentary on empowerment, autonomy, and truth. Viewers who have followed the Browns from the beginning have witnessed their transformation in real time. In early seasons, the wives often justified their unhappiness as a spiritual test. Today, they see it as a symptom of imbalance. The difference between those two interpretations marks an enormous leap in self-awareness. The women no longer hide behind doctrine or denial. They're choosing authenticity over appearances. And in doing so, they've become examples of what it means to reclaim your voice after years of silence. Even as Kody Brown continues to defend his choices, the women's stories speak louder than his justifications. His vision of unity through plural marriage has fallen apart, and his attempts to blame the wives for its failure have only reinforced the perception that the system was never about mutual respect. Instead, it was about his control, emotional, spiritual, and practical. As Christine put it bluntly, he wanted control over all of us, but he lost control the moment we stopped believing in him. Those words echo a universal truth that extends far beyond the world of sister wives. When control is disguised as love, it will always eventually crumble. The evolution of the Brown women stands as a powerful statement on the resilience of the human spirit. They were taught that obedience was strength, that suffering was spiritual growth, and that silence was virtue. But by rejecting those teachings, they've found a deeper faith, one rooted in self-respect, compassion, and equality. Their courage to speak out has given other women permission to question systems that keep them small. As their new chapters of life unfold, the world watches not just because of curiosity, but because their stories mirror the struggles of so many who had to untangle faith from control. Christine, Janelle, and Mary are no longer just former sister wives, they are symbols of transformation. Women who broke free from a life that demanded their silence and now live in truth. In the end, their revelation, polygamy isn't about faith, it's about control. Maybe the most important lesson Sister Wives has ever taught. It's a truth that exposes the imbalance beneath the surface of what once looked like unity and shows that real spiritual growth begins when you stop surrendering your power. For years, these women believed they were living for eternity. Now they're finally living for themselves. And that, more than any doctrine or promise, is the truest kind of faith there is.
The real estate world is buzzing again. And this time, it's not just about the market. It's about one of reality television's most enduring stars making headlines in a completely unexpected way. Janelle Brown, the strong, grounded, and fiercely independent former wife from TLC's Sister Wives, has once again proven that life after Kody Brown doesn't just come with freedom. It can come with serious profit, too. Years after walking away from the plural marriage that made her a household name, Janelle's former Las Vegas home has become a hot commodity, doubling in value since she and her family packed up their lives in the desert for what was supposed to be a new chapter in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's a story filled with irony, transformation, and a touch of poetic justice. Because while Kody and Robin continue to grapple with the emotional and financial fallout of the family's collapse, Janelle's past investment is quietly paying off in ways that no one could have predicted. When Janelle Brown and her fellow sister wives, Mary, Christine, and Robin, moved to Las Vegas over a decade ago, It was meant to represent a new beginning. The family, then united under Cody's spiritual leadership, purchased 4 homes on a cul-de-sac, each wife having her own residence but remaining closely connected to one another. The Brown family had fled Utah after facing legal and social pressure for their polygamous lifestyle, and Vegas offered them anonymity, opportunity, and the chance to live in relative peace. Each wife's home reflected her unique personality. Janelle, known for her practical nature and no-nonsense approach to family life, chose a comfortable but understated home that mirrored her grounded spirit. She wasn't about flash or luxury, she was about stability and providing a safe haven for her children. But even she couldn't have predicted that this very home would one day become a gold mine. At the time, Janelle's home was purchased for around $400,000, an amount that by today's standards, and considering the Vegas real estate boom, seems almost quaint. The family's time in Vegas was documented in the early to mid-seasons of Sister Wives, showing viewers how each wife managed her separate household while maintaining the complicated web of their plural family. Fans still remember scenes of Janelle hosting family gatherings, her home filled with laughter, her kids running around the spacious backyard, and her steady presence amidst Cody's increasingly erratic emotional outbursts. But after several years, Cody decided that Vegas was no longer the right place for the family. He dreamed of rural land, privacy, and a fresh start on Coyote Pass in Flagstaff. That move would ultimately unravel everything the Browns had built. And now, years later, it seems that Janelle's Vegas house has gained more value than anything Cody ever managed to build in Arizona. The irony is almost cinematic. Cody Brown's grand vision of building a communal dream on Coyote Pass has yet to come to fruition. The land remains mostly undeveloped, the family fractured beyond repair. Meanwhile, Janelle's old Vegas property has appreciated dramatically, now reportedly worth more than twice its original purchase price. For Janelle, who has always been one of the more financially savvy wives, this turn of events must feel like validation. She has long been the one to manage the family's business affairs, often reminding Cody and the other wives about budgeting, investments, and long-term planning. While others were focused on emotions, Janelle kept her eye on the numbers. Her quiet financial wisdom, often overlooked by viewers early on, has now paid off in a big way. Las Vegas's real estate market has been red hot in recent years, with home prices skyrocketing due to limited inventory, population growth, and a surge in demand from out-of-state buyers. For former Sister Wives fans, this real estate boom has added an intriguing twist to the Browns' legacy. The 4 cul-de-sac homes, once symbols of unity and proximity, have all been sold off separately, scattered into the hands of new owners with no ties to the polygamous past they once sheltered. Yet it's Janelle's house that seems to be grabbing all the attention, both for its remarkable increase in value